What is industrial policy for the purpose of people who...
So industrial policy is essentially the state, in a sense, participating in industry, and at least the more extreme version of that is the state picking winners and saying, you know, we're going to invest in you. Whereas the kind of neoliberal model is the opposite of that, the free market model, which is that the state just guarantees free competition and then people compete, right? And we have been very averse to a kind of very activist state in the Philippines. I mean, you talk about our neighbors, right? Vietnam is very activist these days, but Korea was also very activist. Japan was also very activist. So we're a kind of Asian exception. I mean, even Singapore or even Malaysia,
Taiwan,
they're pretty activist. And I think one of the reasons why we haven't been very activist historically is the growth. We never grew particular parts of the government that could have been key in industrial policy. So in Manuel Quezon's time, that was the National Economic Council, which eventually became NEDA, right? So we never really empowered NEDA. So another institution which could have been empowered to engage in industrial policy is the Department of... what's Marroas's department again? He's Mr. Paleke.
Trade and Industry.
Trade and Industry, sorry, mental block. Yeah, DTI. Of course, we've talked about this before in your podcast. In Japan, that was the MITI, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, which was extremely powerful. We've never had a really powerful DTI.
For the purpose of our audience, can you explain what did MITI do? Because this is the quintessential case of an activist bureaucracy helping national development. And interestingly, because again, there's always this argument that lawyers should not run the government because they're too rigid. But actually, in the case of the University of Tokyo, they provided the technocrats who oversaw a very flexible, dynamic, and proactive economic policy that made Japan the industrial powerhouse.
It's a bit of a cliche now, but the way people, if you were against, this had pejorative undertones if you didn't like what the Japanese were doing, but it had complementary undertones if you like. They called it Japan Inc., meaning the government and industry were fused together. And that was best exemplified by MITI, because at MITI, you would have graduates from an imperial university, Todai
Ministry of
Law,
International Trade and Industry,
coming into MITI, and then when they finished, they would have Amakudai, which is like a post-retirement position. They would go into the big Zaibatsu, like, you know, the board of Toyota, the board of Mitsubishi, and as a result, you'd have extreme coordination. Of course, in the eyes of Filipinos who are very walang korap, walang mahirap, this strikes of conflict of interest, rent-seeking, and corruption. But the funny thing about the developmental state is when it works, it's a developmental state. When it doesn't work, it's very easy to label it as corruption and rent-seeking. Rentier state. But this is the opposite of kind of the baseline impulse of Filipinos, which is, I think, a kind of neoliberal baseline impulse.
So where does it come from? Because one of my theories is that we also, because we were colonized by a libertarian America, we kind of just, because